So the detective asked the guy, how did you get those scratches on your face? Just curious. And the suspect said, well, I scratched myself shaving. And the interrogator, the police detective, he's been shaving his entire life. He knows what a shaver scratch looks like. And those wounds on the guy's face did not look like they were caused by a shaver. They looked like they were caused by a fingernail. And it turns out he was in a fight with his wife. And it just didn't turn out very well for his wife. We'll leave it like that. Okay, the point is this. You can tell sometimes what caused a wound just by the shape or the size or the kind of wound that it is. Now, sometimes in the past, I suppose you've been bitten by a dog. And you know what a dog wound looks like. The little teeth marks wherever the dog happened to bite you. Hopefully it wasn't somewhere particularly painful. Or maybe you were burned at one time, particularly when you're a little kid. You may have touched something hot. Now you had this blister, so that's a different kind of wound. And you can talk to just about everybody. I mean, just about everybody has a scar on their knee. How did that get there? Well, sometime when they were a kid, they tripped and fell. And if you want to play the part of a what do you call those people? Like a fortune teller, or whatever. Walk up to somebody and say, you have a scar on your knee, don't you? And they say, how did you know that? You say, well, I'm a fortune teller. Well, the fact of the matter is almost everybody has a scar on their knee, but that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about. What we're talking about is this. There are particular scars that narcissists leave on us. Now, we're talking about not physical scars, sometimes in physically abusive relationships, but we're talking about emotional, mental scars. We got 8 of them that point to narcissistic abuse. Let's talk about them. Number 1 is that feeling that you were betrayed. It's not just a feeling. It goes beyond being just a feeling because you actually were betrayed by the narcissist. Now, it's not just the narcissist who betrayed you. It's also those flying monkeys, those narcissists by proxy, those agents of the narcissist who he recruits after he has discarded you or she has discarded you to help him by isolating you. Narcissists are great actors. I mean, they're just phenomenal. I'm thinking these people ought to go to Hollywood. I think many of them have gone to Hollywood from what I've seen of it, but they're really good actors. They can fool you. They can fool just about anybody, but not everybody, but almost. They're really good at it. And then when they discard you and they're done with you, like you're done with the tissue paper and you throw it away, it's just over. And you feel, man, this was my friend. This was my buddy. This was my love interest. This was my business associate. I trusted this person so much, and now to find out they didn't care about me at all. They were just using me for supply. I like to use the supply. I like to use the illustration of a tire that's losing air, so it needs more air. So you get out the pump and you pump it up. But the problem with a narcissist is he's always in need of supply. His leak, he has this problem with self-esteem, and he needs his ego boosted. So he needs supply from you and as many people as he can get to keep him alive. It's almost like a vampire, only instead of sucking blood, they're sucking self-worth out of you into themselves. By putting you down, they put themselves up. And when you realize what's going on, the first wound is you just feel betrayed, not only by him, but your friends, maybe family members that are believing the narcissist because he got to them during the smear campaign. Number 2 is you feel confused. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a moment, but have you ever been out walking in the woods? And I'm not talking about taking a hike along a trail, but I mean just go out in the woods where there is no trail. Maybe you're deer hunting or whatever, and it's an unfamiliar place, but it's okay. You got your compass, you got your GPS. But then your compass or your GPS quits working. Or maybe you realize after you're way out in the woods somewhere that unfamiliar terrain, and you realize your compass or your GPS never did work. You thought it was working, it looked like it was working, but now that you're out there in the woods, you were wrong. That is how you feel. That is one of the wounds of being betrayed by a narcissist once you realize what has gone on. It worked in the past, at least you thought it did. I mean, the GPS, you thought it was giving you good directions, and you thought your good friend, the narcissist, or your love interest, the narcissist, was genuine. You thought it was real. You thought it was working. You thought you had something going here. You know, you were buddies. You had each other's back. You know, we're a team. Now you find out you never were a team. You never were buddies. It was always him scamming you and him being deceitful and you being gullible. Now you're lost. You're lost. Number 3 is this. Sometimes you just feel nothing at all. I mean, I know some people who they don't feel angry. They don't feel sad. They don't feel depressed. They can't cry. They can't rage. They just feel numb. They don't feel anything at all. That is one of the scars that a narcissist will leave after he has abused you. Or I should say, as he is abusing you or she is abusing you and you don't even know it. Number 4 is this. You are hypersensitive to other people, and for good reason. You were fooled by the narcissist. He was a nice, friendly, good guy. Or she was. Now you're wondering who else is a narcissist. You just can't trust anybody. I knew one guy who, after narcissistic abuse, he just scrawled out on a piece of paper, "Don't trust anybody, ever. Never again will I trust anyone for any reason, because I trusted this guy or this woman, whoever it was, and they betrayed me, but they were acting like everybody else, and everybody else was acting like them. So how do I know, how can I tell who is and who is not a narcissist and who is just acting? Can't tell. I mean, it's impossible to tell. It's what goes through your mind. And that is one of the scars that a narcissist or narcissistic abuse leaves behind. Number 5 is we tend to blame ourselves. It goes something like this. If I hadn't been so gullible, if I had not been so naive, I would not have been fooled by this guy or this girl, this woman. Wouldn't have happened. It's my fault. I shouldn't be so gullible. I shouldn't be so naive. Truth of the matter is your gullibility, your naivety, that however you pronounce it, that is, how do you pronounce it?
Naivete.
That is an indicator that, it's a positive indicator. It means you're empathetic. It means you're trusting. It means you care about other people. You don't see everybody as a bad guy, but that kind of changed, you know. And now you're blaming yourself. And the illustration that I like to use, I've used this in the past, and probably will again in the future, but I had this neighbor lady, we were talking over the fence, you know, and she mentioned that she had a plumber who had ripped her off, and he did that because, well, she's a woman. And I'd actually used that same plumber a few weeks earlier, and he ripped me off. Didn't do that good of work, overcharged me, and it wasn't because she was a woman, it was because he was a jerk. What's the point of that? Look, folks, it's not because you were naive and gullible, because you are an empath. That's a positive thing. It's because he was a jerk, or she was a jerk, because he was an empath, because probably still is, because she, or not an empath, but a narcissist, because she is a narcissist. It's not your fault. Those are bad people. Bad people prey on good people. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it always has been, but that is a scar that is left, is blaming yourself, something we shouldn't do. If somebody wounds you, it's their fault. It's not you. Most cases, I mean, unless somebody's, I don't know how it could be your fault. Number 6, this happens sometimes. I've not seen this with everybody who's been a victim of narcissistic abuse, but some people just can't sleep. They ruminate, they're occupied, preoccupied, their minds are with what happened in the past, how you were tricked, how you were fooled, how you were taken advantage of, how you may have lost resources, sometimes money. You have been scammed. If not by money, they've scammed your feelings. They have ripped you off, and you can't sleep because you're thinking about it. And sometimes it even leads to depression, and they say people with depression typically, not always, but typically have a hard time sleeping, or they sleep all the time, one or the other. So that is one of the wounds that a narcissist will leave on you. Number 7 is you just kind of lose interest in most everything, but what is it that interests you? People have different interests. Some people like to work on cars. Some people like to knit. Some people like to play the guitar. Some people like to get into music. Just something that they like to do. Millions of things you could think of. Some people like to knit. I can't imagine. I don't have the patience to knit, but some people, women in particular, love to knit. Some of them. But after you've been abused by a narcissist, that has made such a scar on your mind that those things that you thought were fun, that you enjoy doing, now you've kind of lost interest in them. Now, I don't know if this applies to everybody who's been a victim, but I've never seen an occasion where it wasn't. And it's not just that, it's just almost everything. And some people, do they lose an interest in food? Wouldn't that be a good thing if they're a little bit overweight? Well, maybe, but then again, they may lose interest in watching their weight, and so they put on weight. They do things that are unhealthy. They just don't care anymore. They've lost interest in taking care of themselves, and so the abuse, the mental abuse, then becomes physical abuse. It manifests itself as physical abuse. Number 8. We talked about this a little bit before. When we lose direction, but the way we phrase it now is just confusion. Confusion in the sense that we question everything. What we thought was our security is now no more our security. We thought our GPS worked. We thought our compass worked. We were using it, and everything looked fine. We were comfortable with it, but then found out, no, it wasn't working. And we were comfortable with this person, this narcissist, whoever it was, very comfortable with it. And now it doesn't work anymore. And you're thinking back, well, I thought it was working, but it wasn't working. And now we're just kind of confused. Everything, now you start to question not all the people, but everybody, but you begin to question everything. In a sense that you're just kind of confused. How does the world work? I mean, how do we socialize? How does this thing, just not a matter of trust, but just in general, everything is just, the whole world seems to be a confusing place now to live. That's a wound of narcissistic abuse. You see those 2 rectangles on the box? We can keep this conversation going. All you need to do is click on one of those boxes and we keep on talking. But if you're done, well, thanks for stopping by and see y'all next time.